my father was a product of the school to prison pipeline. So when it comes to the restorative practices is deeper for me. It's bigger than just get it into schools and to make money from it. My father didn't get the programs and didn't get the conflict resolution skills taught to him at a young age that could have saved his life. And when I was a restorative justice coordinator at KIPP High School in Texas, we did a real good job of connecting the students to do the work and have student accountability. So I taught them circle leading skills, conflict resolution skills, and then they had duties on campus where they would go and do things and take care of things like, Ibrahim, go handle this class 208. There's a situation that popped off. Go talk to the student, resolve the conflict, tell me what we need to do to run the circle. So the students came to front line. We did really well. We got on ABC News and got a feature on ABC News. And I started using my network and speaking to get my kids to do presentations at other schools and neighboring campuses. So that went extremely well. And in that same year, that I was able to achieve all that with KIPP High School in the first semester of me being on campus. And that January, Christmas break, right after Christmas break, January 10th, 2019, my father committed suicide. And that's where everything changed for me.
Hey everybody, I'm back with another episode of So What Success Stories. And today I have the opportunity to speak with a newer friend, Carlos Malave.
Yes.
I've had to practice his last name, Carlos Malave. And Carlos is a speaker, and he's actually a new speaker with the agency that I'm a part of for College for Life. And he is also a restorative practice consultant. He'll get to tell us a little bit more about what he does as we talk. But Carlos, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so my name is Carlos J. Malave. I'm from Brooklyn, New York. I reside currently in Houston, Texas. I've been speaking and teaching within education for 10 plus years. And I've taught all different subjects. I spoke for about 7 to 8 years in the college space, high school space, middle school space. And throughout my time, I built my business on restorative practices, and I was able to develop a curriculum. So right now, I speak on restorative practices. That's a part of my work. And then I help implement the restorative practice curriculum, which is restorative practices is a different way of looking at discipline, getting to the root cause of the situations instead of, it's to end the school to prison pipeline, right? Where kids get suspended constantly, they don't learn from what they did, and then they end up repeating the actions. And then if they're kicked out of school, they're put in a situation where they get in more trouble, right? And the restorative practices is a way to be able to do conflict resolution, understanding what happened, getting to the root of the situation, as I said before, and to end the school to prison pipeline. So they usually do that as a replacement to discipline. But my approach was, let's do it holistically so that we can really make an impact and be proactive and not reactive towards when things happen on campus. So that's where the curriculum came about. I was a restorative justice coordinator, and I had an opportunity to teach a course, and it said, do what you want. And I created the curriculum. So with that, I saw it as a gap within education. So I started like pushing it within schools to implement it holistically. So I do that. And then I also coach speakers to develop their own curriculums for their own content to implement within schools.
Love it. I love it for so many reasons. Like I work, as you know, I work in education. A lot of friends also that are educators, yeah. That are always looking for alternative ways to do discipline, and restorative practices is also, I mean, it's amazing because it also goes to the root of, I don't know how much work you do with ACEs or understanding ACEs, the adverse childhood experiences, and understanding the why the behavior is bad instead of the person is bad, and dealing with the challenge in a different way. And so that's so cool to me. And I'm actually, as we're talking, I'm thinking about some people I want to introduce you to. And the other reason why this is so cool, because I think you also know too, is that I've developed curriculum. I have different curriculum that's in schools as well. So Exciting. So let's get into this because I want to about your story and your journey. So in this program, I have what I call the So What Success System. Mm-hmm. And it is my belief that if anyone, and I believe agree with this, with doing your restorative practices work, anyone can, if they can learn how to overcome obstacles, eliminate excuses, and calculate choices, they can be successful, no matter what has happened in their lives or even what choices that they've made. So talk to us a little bit about how some of the obstacles that you've had in your life and how you've overcome some of those obstacles.
Well, I have many, but I'll talk about the most recent and the biggest obstacle I ever had to overcome. My father was a product of the school to prison pipeline. So when it comes to the restorative practices, is deeper for me. It's bigger than just get it into schools and to make money from it. My father didn't get the programs and didn't get the conflict resolution skills taught to him at a young age that could have saved his life. And when I was a restorative justice coordinator at KIPP High School in Texas, we did a real good job of connecting the students to do the work and have student accountability. So I taught them circle leading skills, conflict resolution skills, and then they had duties on campus where they would go and do things and take care of things like, Ibrahim, go handle this class 208. There's a situation that popped off. Go talk to the student, resolve the conflict, tell me what we need to do to run the circle. So the students came to front line. We did really well. We got on ABC News and got a feature on ABC News. And I started using my network and speaking to get my kids to do presentations at other schools and neighboring campuses. So that went extremely well. And in that same year, that I was able to achieve all that with KIPP High School in the first semester of me being on campus. And that January, Christmas break, right after Christmas break, January 10th, 2019, my father committed suicide. And that's where everything changed for me. And it became the hardest thing I ever had to deal with. My father, he had his demons. Like I said, it was part of the school to prison pipeline, but hardworking man, did construction for 30 plus years. Showed me the meaning of hard work. And we were really close. He struggled with building relationships and dealing with conflict and calming himself down, and things that I was helping these students be able to achieve, he struggled with, right? And when he took his own life, it was very hard for me to deal with because of the relationship we built over the years. From the age of 13, he was asking me to help him on how to speak to my mother. So it was a weird dynamic, but it kind of groomed me to the person I am today. And we kind of built this bond where I had to get to the place of not expecting him to become something that he just wasn't, and accepting him for who he was and what he could offer. And one thing that he did was allow other men to enter my life and help groom me into the man that I am today. And I didn't realize how big of an impact that was. That one of my coaches told me, like, yo, like, dudes don't do that. Like, they don't just allow other men to really come in and kick game. And my father knew areas where he couldn't, help me with, and he allowed other men to like fill those gaps, which I'm very appreciative of it now. But, all of that included, I struggled with him taking his life. He jumped in front of the L train in Manhattan.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and it was a very traumatic situation where, I'm getting and the crazy thing is, there's a lot of, I'm saying all this because I'm gonna unpack everything. I'm gonna break you down to how I got to where I'm at today. I got his last call in my phone, and ironically, I was talking to two of my high school students, mentees, about their fathers. And my father called me the last time and, left a message, and I tried to call him back. And I guess he was trying to get me to convince him not to do it. And I kept on calling him back and he didn't. And I just had this gut wrenching feeling like I knew it wasn't right. There were situations in the past where we got through it together, and I talked him into, finding a way to get through it and be able to, but never to this magnitude. And then when it happened, I got the call because I was the last call in his phone. But he's calling me the next day, and I pick up, hey, Pa, and it's NYPD, and they're telling me what had happened. So it was a very traumatic situation, having to go identify that it was my father, and being the person in my family where I'm taking care of I'm the oldest of the siblings, 3 siblings, and taking care of everybody, make sure my mom is good, this and that. Where it wasn't until when I got back home after a couple of weeks off and situating everything, my wife tells me she's afraid, because for so long, my father has been grooming me to be better than him. He was a measuring stick, right? And she was afraid. She told me, she was like, with him not here, who are you? And I couldn't answer that question. So the next day I signed up for therapy, and I started building the understanding of what needed to be done, so I don't repeat the same actions. So I did a lot of research on myself, and I found out that my father's father jumped in front of a bus, and my father jumped in front of a train. So my mission is so that I don't jump, and my daughter asks, why did he jump? So I went into understanding where it was coming from, why it seemed like a generational thing where people were just holding things in, not knowing how to communicate, afraid of conflict, and not dealing with, and they're afraid of a confrontation mainly. Then being able to do that, and then started using the restorative practices to save my life. So using it as a father, as a husband, as a brother, as a son, as a cousin, as a friend, to really, start building those relationships properly, rebuilding those relationships properly, and having those confrontations, because confrontation is necessary. Conflict is when you need help, right? But so many people are so afraid to be uncomfortable for 1 or 2 minutes, when it just takes 1 or 2 minutes to just get that thing off your chest and address it, and then move forward, right? So I went through that, and then that's why I left KIPP, and I took the curriculum. And then my wife was like, take a year, and you've been doing it for a while, but do it full time. And that's where the translating your success business came from, and then building it out into the curriculum and getting into school.
So let's talk about that in a second. First process, that was a lot. That was a lot, and I knew, and I had no idea what your story was, but I already knew that creating something as powerful as you've created, and your passion for restorative practices and working with youth for that reason, I knew it had to come from a very painful place. I knew it had to, and I also know, without even knowing the program, how powerful it is, because it came from such a painful place, a traumatic place, as you said, which is obviously very, very traumatic. But I applaud you, because you are able to take something so hard that some people have a very hard time getting over, and some people probably wouldn't even get over, but you're able to use it and turn it into something very positive, and life-saving for yourself and other people too. Go ahead.
Yeah, and off of that, like, the reason I could say it without crying is because I've cried so much. And I think what I've implemented within my lifestyle and the curriculum is the power and vulnerability, and being able to take that power back. And that's why I call my curriculum is called Restorative Power, for that reason, because you're taking your power back by owning your vulnerability and understanding where those feelings are coming from and where the root of those feelings are, which aligns to the mission of restorative practices. So it's, for me, like I said, it's deeper, and it's more meaningful to me, because I believe if my father had access to a curriculum like mine, he probably would have built the skills to still be alive today.
It's so interesting you say that, because I believe in my curriculum for the same reason. And I have some specific examples in my life too, of where I'm like, if they had this, I think things would be a lot different. So I applaud you for creating it. And man, I'm so excited to introduce you to some people, because I know it can help a lot of people. And thank you for sharing that.
No problem.
But okay, so the next part is of a success system, because you went through a very traumatic experience. And I'm sure that's not the only thing, so you could have made a lot of excuses, right? You could still be in depression. But one, you said you went to therapy. I want to point that out. That's wonderful that you did that, because a lot of people don't take the time to do that. And so you did. And I know men especially sometimes have a hard time going to therapy. So I'm so glad that you said that you did that. But talk about some of the excuses that you had to eliminate to move forward from that situation or any other challenging situations that you've had.
So I'm gonna mix it up so that you get a full perspective of who I am. So I'm gonna go back to my sophomore year of college, where I had transferred from Concordia College to SUNY Cortland, upstate New York. And the reason I transferred is because I got a Division II basketball scholarship, and I didn't really research schools in the fit. It was a much smaller private school, and I wanted the whole big school experience. So I ended up transferring to a bigger school, SUNY Cortland, which is up there by Syracuse University and Cornell. So I was in that area. And so when I transferred, my father ended up in prison, Rikers Island to be exact. So it was my first year away, because my first college, I was about 30-minute drive from home. This was the first time I was away outside of going to basketball camps for a week or two. This is the first time I was away, like hours away. It's a 6 to 7 hour drive. So I was away from family and what I knew, and everybody at the campus came from different parts of the world, right? So when I went there, my father was at Rikers Island, and I remember going around campus and just being so frustrated because I would see people so happy, in particular, people in the cafeteria laughing and having the best old time, and I had to deal with my father calling me collect from Rikers Island and telling me, hey, everything's gonna be all right, this and that, and me trying to bring up his spirits. Meanwhile, I was going through it, but I didn't want to make it feel like, I was struggling, right? So I try to put face for him while I was there. Meanwhile, I was struggling to even put that all together, right? And how I was going to get through this. My mom is by herself. She's an educator, but like with helping with money at home. My brother and sister struggling with, with the whole situation of my father being gone, and should I go back? Should I just leave and go home and help out and help immediately, or should I stay? And I remember I made that decision, and I was like, I need to make a bigger decision. If I stay, I can help them long term. And then even the idea of their son, their brother, being able to finish through this time can do a lot more than me coming home and helping, immediately, but like little bits. And then people tend to forget very quickly, because I have friends and family that they did those things, and then people tend to forget real quick, all the sacrifices that are made.
Sacrifice,
yeah. So I was like, let me go big picture. And I remember forcing myself to stay in a predominantly white school, and the community of Black and Latino was very small. So I had a very small group of people to kind of like connect with too. And I remember telling myself, if I'm going to be in the real world, I need to know how to adjust, and I need to know, and this is all with me just doing it myself. Like I just felt this way. I was like, I need to know how to adapt. So I'm going to get super involved. So I was a part of the best basketball team. I became multicultural life intern, multicultural life student speaker, Caribbean Student Association vice president. I became a resident assistant, and so much other things that I became on campus, where I just wanted to be able to speak to as many people as possible, get to know why they think the way they think and why they do the things that they do. And be able to everybody know who I was. So I became that guy on campus. And nobody would have, and I would talk to people after years of being on campus in the same spaces, and they were like, oh, he's so happy, he's this and that. And they had no idea that I was going through the stuff that I was going through, because it was a coping mechanism for me. And that's something that I had to unpack in therapy later on. And with the people that I was connected to, my wife and my friends, having to understand that that's not necessarily the best thing to do, and how to come out of that where I could still be me and do what I need to do, so I can make sure that I'm healthy up here and in here, so that I could be the best out there. So that was the whole process of me, having so many excuses in front of me. And I had so many people and peers on the same campus saying, yo, like, this ain't for me. Like, I don't connect. I don't have many places to go. Whereas for me, I was like, yo, we got 10 people. We're going to make this party, right? Or we're going to do this event, right? And we're going to like, it was crazy because I was like, so like, I wasn't the best in school necessarily, but I knew I had the skills of like communication and networking and connecting with people. So I would use my strengths and connect with the smartest kid in class. Yo, let's do a party. I'll introduce you to everybody, and we'll do like study parties and study games. And like I remember we doing like rap songs to like history lessons, or like, you know, just to memorize things. And it became like this whole challenge event. And I took my excuses and kind of made them a part of my journey to be successful. Right. And I was like, oh, that's an excuse. I'm going to use that and flip it and kind of use it to my advantage. And that's kind of how, you know, it's benefited me. And obviously, I know I have a lot of privilege. One, me being a male and then a fair-skinned male, right, where I have family and friends that are much darker and have to and get treated a lot differently than I did. So I understand acknowledging my privilege through that, but also being able to use that and articulate that and understand that.
So, okay, that's, I can relate to so much of what you just said, and I've had to unpack some of the things too. So for me, you said you were an active student. This organization, that organization, that was me in my life, exactly me in my life. And I had a child in college, and so I was determined to prove people wrong. Like, people thought I wasn't going to make it, you know. I'm like, watch me. And and it was motivation for me, but also that it was a coping mechanism for me too, in that I was dealing with a lot of hurt and pain, fear, frustration, a lot of feelings. And so I stayed busy. I got busy. And I really am kind of still that person. So I'm always have things going on. So I can totally relate to you. And I love how you turned it into a positive though. All the pain and frustration. And I'm glad you shared that too, because I think we always need to remember there are people who are walking around apparently smiling and happy, but they have a lot of pain and they're dealing a lot of things. And I try to assume that people are dealing with stuff so that I'm kinder. I try to be kinder to people, because you just never know what people are dealing with. And you as a student dealing with all of that, I think we all need to remember that as well.
Absolutely.
So the third part of what success system is calculating choices. And you talked about a lot of the choices that you've made, but talk about some of the other choices that you've made to be able to overcome some of these major challenges that you've had and be successful and create these amazing things that you're doing now.
I mean, a big one, we hear this all the time. Tell me who your closest friends are, and I can tell you who you are, right? And so I think choices is the people I surround myself around. Now, me being, you know, in the spaces that I was, it was easy to have people around me to tell me what I wanted to hear constantly. It was easy to get people to, you know, do what I wanted to do, be like, say what I wanted to hear. The key was, am I really improving? And I remember asking myself that, because I would see family, like I come from a family, Puerto Rican background, both parents, and people know how to dance. Boy, they can bachata, they can salsa, they can merengue around all the issues. They know how to dance around every situation. And I used to remember seeing that as a child. And I don't know, I felt different growing up. And I used to see it, I was like, that's not right. Like, why don't you just, y'all was just screaming, the doorbell ring, and now you put on face like everything good. That ain't right. Now, that's not how you're supposed to live. And I remember feeling that way. And I was always on the journey of finding people to be truth tellers around me and call me on my stuff. And I always felt like I wanted to be with people that will, you know, tell me when I look stupid, or like leave me in basic relationships, leave me if I'm on stuff. Like, don't allow me to get away with stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I kind of craved that, because I felt like I was that's the only way I would improve. Like, I'm not perfect, and I need people to like constantly let me know what's really up. So if you look at all my friends, like, I'll give you a prime example, two prime examples. My boy, we went to college, Nate, right? That's my boy. Like, he used to cut my hair. Big reason why I went bald. But I keep saying that it wasn't his fault. It was going before, you know, I ended college. But we would talk, and he was older. He had to go home, like I said, and take care and help out family. And then he decided to come back later. So I was like 20, he was like 24 already. So he'd grown, right? So he used to be like my big brother, and he used to tell me, you know, kick game and help me out in different aspects, whether it was school, relationships, or whatnot. And so we go way back, and like, he got his doctorates now. He's administrative schools. He's very, you know, out there, very educated, and did everything right. And I remember I wrote my first book in 2017, and and this is a prime example of what I just talked about. I got 37 5-star reviews. I got 1 4-star review. Who was that 1 4-star from? Nate. And Nate was like, yo, like, I love your storytelling. I love what you did. But if you put references in there, and if you connect it to like these theses and all this stuff and he was like, and I was receptive to it, because I love that. I was like, because I feel like that's making me better. And I feel like if you're willing to tell me the truth, you really care. Right. So that was one. And then the second one, I believed this so much that I married the person that was the most truthful to me. So my wife, obviously best friend and all that, but I think the biggest thing is, like, she's not afraid, just as a person, she's not afraid of confrontation, and she's not afraid to tell you what needs to be said. Now, your delivery is very key, and she's like the queen and the god when it comes to the sandwich. Like, she knows how to tell me, hit me with the good, then punch me with what I need to improve, and then hit me with the, okay, but the good right under it. So like the sandwich, and she know how to do that. So it make me be like, oh yeah, I do. Oh, damn. Oh yeah. So it makes me want to change or improve better. So yeah, so I believe the biggest choices for me is separating myself from the people, whether it's friends or even blood and family, that aren't necessarily there for your growth, and then connect me to the people that actually gonna make me expand my mind and grow in ways that I need to be challenged, right? So I think that is the biggest choices that I've made, the people that I particularly kept connected to, and or the people that I reached out to and built relationships with moving forward.
That's powerful, and that's not easy, but it's so wise. And it's, you know, we all like to get a pat on the back, right? And we don't really necessarily want to hear what we're doing wrong, but you said it, the people who are going to help you grow. And so that's amazing. Great choices. For real. And I hope everybody who watches this really receives that, because it's probably one of the hardest things, though, is to disconnect from people who may not be in your best interest, no matter how much you love them. If they aren't helping you grow, if they're bringing this negative energy, or not even just negative energy, but actually negative actions into your life, it can keep you from growing or make you go totally backwards. So that's powerful. All right, Carlos. So you've proven you know how to implement the SOA success system even before it existed. You talked about overcoming obstacles, eliminating excuses, calculating choices. And that's why you have SOA success. You are a success story in spite of trauma and extreme challenges. But how do you personally define success?
So when it comes to personal definition of success, I think everybody should have their own definition. It shouldn't be the same. So mine is going to be different than anybody else's. I think my personal definition of success right now, I've been talking about it with my wife a lot, is having wholeness and not necessarily, you know, working to live. I want to live and work, if that makes sense. So that's the goal right now, to live and work. Not work to live, which means financial freedom, which is me and my wife recently last year, we became debt free. We paid everything off. And I think we are in the midst of understanding finances better than ever, and now building wealth, whereas we don't have to work, we want to work. And enjoy life and travel and see the world like you were able to do recently, going to Italy and be able to experience different things. And I think my wife says it a lot. Life is about experiences. You know what I mean? It's the memories you make. It's the things those are the things that you're going to remember. Those are the things you're going to take with you. So how many of those are you're going to use? And for example, my father talked about retirement for the last 4 years of his life. Before he committed suicide. And ironically, my father committed suicide 4 months before he retired. And I think it had to do with the fear of actually not having to work. And what was he going to do now? Was he going to mess up things even more with family, with friends, with, things? And I think that got to him. I know that got to him. And I don't want to wait for retirement. I want to enjoy life now and be able to live the best life that I can right now. As we were talking about earlier, we both had the coping mechanism of keeping busy and just working, right? But after unpacking that through therapy and conversations with my wife and friends, that's not what life is about. You have to enjoy life while you're living it and not wait till, a certain point to kind of like live. A lot of people wait till retirement, and then their retirement period doesn't last long. They work for 30, 40 years and then only live in retirement for like 10. That don't make no sense. It needs to be different. And I'm for, putting myself and my family in a place where we don't have to work and we can enjoy ourselves and then the world.
Yes. I am so with you on that. And yes, you referenced my trip to Italy. And a couple years ago, I went to Ghana, and that is exactly where I'm at. That's what brings me joy, is traveling and seeing the world. And I'm exactly like you in the sense that I'm not waiting until retirement, because one, you may not ever get there. I've lost a lot of friends young. Who they died young, and so they didn't even get to experience those things. And I know that one day, you and I both know that one day, it could be retirement, it could be sooner, that you won't feel like it. You may not live to see it or to enjoy and do the things that you want to do. So do it now. Do it now. And so I'm absolutely, I love it. I love it. And the financial freedom and making good choices, it goes back to choices, right? So that you can have the freedom to do that. I absolutely love it. I have one last question for you. You're obviously full of life lessons, beautiful experiences, challenging experiences that have molded you and shaped who you are. But what additional piece of advice, because you're given a lot already, but what's one piece of advice that you would leave for anybody who's watching this?
Tell those people around you how you really feel, and stop holding back what you need to say, because that fear of that confrontation, that fear of that conflict could be something that can easily go the opposite way. And I've seen it happen where you're so afraid to say what you need to say that it starts building up every time the person enters the room, every time the person enters the space, and then your whole mood is changed because you haven't said how you really felt, or what triggered you, or something that they did, or something that's bothering you, right? Say it, because that 1 or 2 minutes isn't as bad as you think. That 1 or 2 minutes can change. And my wife and I say it all the time. It's better 1 or 2 minutes than 1 or 2 years of uncomfortability.
Absolutely. On that note, I thank you so much, Carlos. I appreciate you sharing your story. I appreciate your smile and your journey. And I do, because I know you fought for that smile. I know you had to fight through a lot of things for that smile. And I appreciate your smile too, because you talked about your smile in college, and a lot of times I know it was fake. And I know how it feels to have a fake smile. And I know how it feels to have a good, genuine, real smile because you have joy. And I see that in you right now. And I appreciate you sharing your story. Thank you so much, Carlos.
Thank you. And anytime, I appreciate you having me on, and moving forward, I look forward to connecting with you and collaborating in the future.
Absolutely.